Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of Boardgame Specialist. I am Melanie.
And I'm Carla.
And this week, we're going to be doing our top 9 games that are pirate-themed. And I gotta say, this was not an easy list to put together, because I think I have only played 9 pirate games, and one of those had included Pop-Up Pirate. So when we decided we were going to do this, I went out and I bought 2 new games to add to my theme, and one I haven't even gotten played. But how about you, Carla? How was yours putting this together? Was it difficult for you or just me?
Well, no, I think I had about 14 to choose from, but
Oh, that's good.
yeah. But it wasn't your idea to do the pirate theme?
I think it might have been.
I think it was.
Seemed like a good idea at the time, but when it comes to executing it, and I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, maybe subconsciously you were like, oh, then I can go buy some more pirate games.
Maybe.
For the podcast.
I might have ulterior motive here.
Yeah.
It's not like I have problem buying games. That happens quite easily. But, oh, that's terrible. And then actually I went to Pandora's Box just today, and they have one that's called Destinies. And I grabbed it and I was going to buy it, and it looked amazing. And the box that they had is an expansion. So you need the base game. And I'm like, oh, but the base game's not there. So
gotcha.
That would have made it in my grouping, I guess, otherwise.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about what we played this week. So, Carla, what have you played this week?
Well, this week I haven't played with groups. I've just been sick for a while, so I've been doing some solo gaming. But I did get Fields of Arle to the table, and
Nice.
It's so fun, even just as a solo game. I can't believe I haven't had this one before, because I'm such a big Uwe Rosenberg fan that this is probably my favorite farming one of his so far. It's awesome. I played it one with Michael. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had it, and I was saying, I need to play that sometime. But I finally got a hold of one, so.
Wonderful.
But yeah, it's such a neat game, because it's just a 2-player game. I think there's an expansion that can add a 3rd player. But you're just kind of going back and forth with actions. You have 9 half years, I think they call the turns, and then you have 4 actions per each of those 9, so summer in the summer and summer in the winter, and you just are trying to either grow some of your fields, get animals, turn them into hides, food. You might transport some of your hides, animals, or even tools to travel and get some travel experience and get a whole bunch of food, which is used to buy other buildings and feed your workers, basically. But it's just the way that you do everything and flip all these tiles over to upgrade them. It's so neat. I need to play it more, and with another person will be fun too.
Yeah, I guess because you've only played it solo.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I've played it once. It's neat. It's a big game, really, when you set it all up. It takes
is.
quite a bit of space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Wonderful.
About you?
I have played a few games, actually. We went to Jerome had an eye doctor's appointment, so while he was waiting for that, Patrick ended up walking over to our local game store. And I figured they also have books. I said, well, go look at the books, see if there's any anime stuff. And then he ended up, when I went to pick him up, he had picked a game he wanted to buy. And it was Trials by Trolley. And I was like, okay, I guess. And then he had blood work done that day. So he's like, please, Mom, I've been stabbed today. And the owner's like, oh, my God. It's like, no, he's not been stabbed. He had blood work. But so we ended up buying Trials by Trolley, and then we played that one. And basically the way it works is you take turns being the trolley conductor, and then everybody else separates into 2 groups based on who's on either side of you, kind of thing. And you have a board, I guess, in front of you of a track, and it splits into 2. And as the conductor, you have to decide which side you're going to go on, but everybody on that side that you're going to go and plow through is going to die. And you flip the first card, and it's an innocent bystander, and then each team puts another innocent bystander, and then each team also puts an evil person on each other's track, and then you can kind of put cards that are modifiers. So, I mean, it was like, I don't know, there was one, it was your grandparents were on the one side, so, and then they had like another thing that was like summer camp children or whatever. But then like the bad card was, what did they have? George Lucas, when he came up with the idea of Jar Jar Binks, or like there's all different kind of cards, and then the teams debate why you should save their side and plow through the other. So I mean, it's dark. The art is super cartoony and it's cute, and it was just, but it was enjoyable. Like, it was a funny game, but I mean, it's definitely a dark theme, but the kids had a blast with it. I also got to play Letter Jam. I had bought that game for a friend for Christmas, and she hadn't played it. She's like, well, here, you take it and see if you can learn the rules. It was confusing for me. So we played it, and it's neat because you have cards in front of you, but you don't see them, and you flip one up at the time, and everybody that's playing flips a card up as well. And there's a couple of like extra cards that's flipped up on the side as well if you don't have enough players. And then you're trying to come up with words so that they can see, like, utilizing the different letters available, so you come up with small words, and then they're trying to figure out what theirs would be, because there'd be a number, you put the number in front of the letters of the order of the word. So let's say the word was card, and there's a C, A, R, and D that you can see, so you would put a number 1 by the C, a number 2 by the A, and so on. So if I was the one that had the R, then I would be able to see C, A, blank, my letter, and D, so I could maybe try to figure out what my letter is that way. But we kept accidentally telling each other's letters so much that I was like, well, I don't know, I guess it could be cat. And it's like, oh, mine's a C? Okay, thank you. And it's like, oh, no. So it was, we did a lot of mistakes. It's a neat word game. Most of my family members are not into word games, unfortunately. I enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I like it.
Yeah, it was neat. And then the final game that I kind of played this... Yeah, exactly. That's right. Right people, for sure. And then I bought Legendary Marvel, the deck building game, and then we ended up playing. So this is my fourth large Legendary game. Like, I have Legendary Encounters Aliens, Predator, I have James Bond 007, and I have the Marvel one, and it's so neat just because of the theme. I had all sorts of Spider-Man, and Spider-Man saves a bunch of bystanders, so I would make points for that. And you have like the bad guys going through, so we were battling Hydra and the Spider foes, and it was so neat. And it played just like the Legendary, like has that same mechanism, but just the theme definitely worked for it. So, and now, I mean, there's still more Legendary out there. I want a bet before I'll end up owning them all, just because I'm at 4 now. Might as well keep going, right? But so those are the games I've played this past week.
Yeah. Oh, I have one more that I was going to talk about. I started playing Welcome to the Moon.
Oh, nice.
So that's the third one in the trilogy. There's first just Welcome to My Perfect Neighborhood, and then Welcome to New Las Vegas, I think it's called, which I have the other ones as well, and I really like. But this one is kind of neat because in the box, it's all dry erase boards, and you get 6, or there's 6 players max, just because there's 6 boards per level, but there's 8 different games. So 8 times 6 boards, like they're double-sided, so I guess it's only 4 boards per person, but you still get actually 8 games, whereas in the Welcome to, the base one, you just have the base game, and then they sold every next level game separately. And they're all pretty much the same. But in this one, they're all completely different. Like, it's like having 8 games in one box. And I've only played 2, the first and second ones so far. But I've kind of read up on the rules on some of the other ones. And they're so neat because they're all completely different. And you can play it in a campaign mode, too. Like, you could play it solo or with a group. and just kind of go through the whole campaign, and then you have a winner at the end. But they're really neat. I like them. I totally recommend them.
That sounds cool. I've played Welcome to, and I have that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, No to the Moon sounds interesting, and it's neat. Yeah, that you have like this nice, neat little game that's actually so many different variation in there.
Yeah, because he could have sold them all separately. I mean, it was like over $40 for this one, but you do get like 8 games in there, so it's worth it.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna get into our top 9 pirate themed games. Now, any honorable mentions this time?
You know what? I do have one. My honorable mention is a game called Jamaica.
Oh, yes.
Now, this game I had got early on in my gaming hobby. I had purchased it on looks alone because it was so pretty. It had such a nice board and components, and even the rule book was like a treasure map, which I thought was so neat that you fold it out until you need to refer to it through the game, and you got to pull out this big giant map all the time and look. I know they did remake the game, and I think they fixed that. They just made it a normal rule book like every other game. But it's really neat because it's a big race. You're trying to race to the end, but on the way you're trying to like plunder and like combat. And I think you kind of steal some treasures from each other. And when you do plunder some things, if you don't have room on your deck, then you have to dump over some other stuff in order to bring that on. And it's just kind of a neat, it's quite light, but I do keep it around because I think maybe for grandkids, they might really like it. That's bad that I do that. I have probably a whole closet full of games that I'm like, oh yeah, my grandkids are going to love this. And I'm years away from grandkids, but that's my logic.
I actually won that one on our Family Plays game, their anniversary. But I haven't gotten it yet. Like, I haven't played it yet. So. Oh, yeah. And it didn't make my list, but
you've won quite a few. You told me about one you won last week.
Yeah, I've won 3 games so far.
Oh, I've won 1, but 3, that's awesome.
I know, it's great. Yeah, no, it's great. Kind of, I don't know, just like buying a game is exciting, but winning a game is like that much more exciting.
It is.
So I have an honorable mention as well, and that was Catan. Because they have Catan Seafarers, where you have the robber on land and you have the pirate in the ocean. And they actually have an expansion that's Explorers and Pirates that has a lot more of that going on. So that one was on my list until I got new games, and it got booted out of my list. So I figured I would bring it up.
Yeah. I don't think I've played the Pirates one, but I do have the Seafarers.
Seafarers is pretty good. It's neat. Yeah.
It is good.
Yeah. All righty. Well, then let's get started with number 9. And Carla, did you want to start us off?
Sure. So my number 9 is called Skull King, and it's from Brent Beck and Jeffrey Beck. It's a company called Grandpa Beck's Games, and it was made in 2013. So it's a card game, basically a trick-taking game. And there's a couple different suits in the game, and so what you do is you're each gonna guess how many tricks you're gonna win. And it starts out with like 1 card the first round, then 2 cards the second round, so on. And it plays like a normal trick taking. The only thing is some of these suits, like a Jolly Roger suit will trump all other 3 suits, whereas like a mermaid will trump all numbered cards. And a Skull King will kind of trump everything, unless the mermaid is played, because then he's like goo-goo-eyed and she steals the trick. But it's really neat because of the different suits. So it's not just like the best cards. Some suits will beat other suits. And then I think the newer version has even more, or there's a little expansion maybe that has more suits. But it's just a really neat trick-taking game. And of course, add pirates onto that makes it even better.
Well, my number 9 is our first crossover. 'Cause I
Oh,
also
no
have
way.
Stalking.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, this is one that my friend had brought over and we played it. I'm a big fan of the trick-taking games, and this one is a neat one for sure. I think because bidding for how many tricks you're gonna win, like that's not like wasn't something I was very exposed to. I mean, I guess Wizard does it, but I hadn't really played those ones a whole lot,
Yeah.
and it's kind of takes trick-taking to a whole different level, really. But yeah, so that was also my number 9.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, so what's your number 8?
My number 8 is Dead Man's Draw. And that was made in 2015, and it doesn't have a designer name on it. So I don't know if it was made by a big group of people, because they don't actually credit a designer or even a few designers. But apparently it was an app turned into a game. I always thought it was the opposite. So whoever made the app, I don't know why they wouldn't get credit for the board game, it's a card game basically. But it's a push your luck game, so it's quite neat because you just keep flipping cards until you decide to stop or you bust. And the way you bust is if you play, you'll just keep flipping, and as soon as you have 2 suits of the same kind, then you've busted. But each suit has its own ability. So if I flip, say, a purple oracle, I lay that down, and then I can look at the top card before I choose to play it. So if it's a suit that I've already played, then I don't have to play it. There's like a Kraken. So if you play a Kraken, then you have to play 2 more cards, whether you like it or not. A really cool push your luck. And anyway, you put the cards in a tableau in front of you, and you always have the highest of one suit on there. And then at the end of, like, when all the cards are played, whoever has the highest amount will win. There is a little expansion where it gives you player powers so that some of the suits are stronger for you. And some can change up the whole game where you only want to have certain amount of points, and you don't want to go over, or you want to have certain suits only or whatnot. But it changes up the game quite a bit with these little abilities and these little event cards that can decide whether or not the game is going to remain the same or just change it up completely. Have you played Dead Man's Straw?
I don't think I have, no.
Oh, it's fun. Yeah, it's a good one. It's an app as well.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that one.
What's your number 8?
So my number 8, I've picked, and then this is where I've gone a little lax on the theme here. So I've included games that has a pirate in it, not necessarily a pirate game per se. So this one is Disney Villainous. It was published in 2018. It was published by Ravensburger, and you play as one of the Disney bad guys, and one of them is Captain Hook.
Oh, yes.
So with Captain, and it's neat because they all have these, like, each characters have like a little statue, like a see-through statue that's very like a vague statue of them, so it's not like a detailed thing. Captain Hook is kind of like his cape and has a feather on the top, and so you can kind of tell it's him because of that, but it's not like a detailed miniature or anything. Like it's very abstract, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, they've made all those little miniatures pretty cute.
Yeah, it was very neat to look at for sure. So with this one here, and the way that this game plays is you play as a bad guy, and you have a board in front of you, and you can go from location to location, and then once you move location, you can do the actions that are on there. Now, if the other players ever block some of your location, it covers some of the actions you can do when you get there because they put a card on the top half of it. So if you go to the one location, there'll be certain icon that's represented, and that shows what you can do. So you can play some cards, or you can collect some some tokens that are the currency in there, and you can do different things. And then the goal is all varies depending on which character that you play. So with the Captain Hook, you're trying to get the Merry Boys? I don't know, like get the kids and put things together, and you got to get the cards and collect the card and play them at the right time. But when you get close, the other players can play part of the hero deck that is associated with you, and that's where Peter Pan will do something, or the kids will do other things that kind of trumps a bit of what you're trying to accomplish. But then at the same time, you'll do that with the other characters as well, right? So they'll be playing, and they have their own goals of what they need to accomplish, and you can play their hero cards onto their game to kind of try to slow them down so that you can meet your goal first. It's neat. There's tons and tons of expansions with this one. The base one, I think, comes with 6 characters, and then the expansions adds an additional 3 or 4. And they actually have a Marvel one that just came out. So I got, and then I saw a Star Wars one is coming too. So I'm a bit excited about that one. But yeah, so that was my number 8 Disney Villainous.
My number 7 is called Extraordinary Adventures Pirates. It's by Don Byer and Glenn Drover, made in 2019. So this game, well, I didn't win it, but I did get it free on the Dice Terra cruise. We got a whole box or bag full of games, and this was one of them, but it's actually quite neat. So there's 3 tracks on there, and it's 3 pathways through the Caribbean, and you're all pirates, and you're gonna stop at some of these cities and plunder their treasures, take them with you, and then you might drop them off at another city to collect these little tiles that are basically endgame points. But you have to have certain colors of the plunder in order to collect these tiles. You will also recruit new members, and the way you do that is it's basically a deck builder is how you're going to move through the game. So you'll have, I think it's 5 cards you have per turn or per round, and you'll play one of them or at 1 or 2. And then it'll decide how much movement you have, or it'll decide just by using one track, you'll get a bigger movement, or you could split it up into the 3 or 2 and just have smaller movement. But hiring new crew members will give you better movement, or a longer movement on one track, maybe even you'll get to move 5 on the black one, whereas normally you're only going to get to move 2 possibly. So you do want new crew members, and you want them to come up in your deck more often, because the ones you start with are only quite little, 1 or 2. But you are trying to race, because the first one who gets to the end of one of the tracks will end the game, and typically they may win, but not always, because you'll also score at the end of the game. Whoever is highest on each of the tracks will get so many points, and then who's second will get a second amount of points, third, so on. So as long as you're kind of moved up on most of the tracks, and maybe first, second in a couple of them, then you have a good chance. Or if you've plundered a lot and cashed it in to get a bunch of those tiles, you'll also have a good chance at it too. But it does go up to, I think, 6 players. I believe it's 5 or 6. I can't see the games over there, but so it's kind of neat, and it's a quick game, because you're on your turn, you're just playing a card and moving basically, or plundering, just really quick movements back and forth. So it goes really fast, flows nicely. Have you played that one?
I'm not sure that I have, no.
No? Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, there's so many games out there that I have not played, it seems like.
Yeah.
My collection is not small, but when we start doing these lists, it feels very small.
Yeah, I know.
And that was your number 7?
Yeah.
Perfect. So for my number 7, now this is one of the games that I went on and bought so I would have more pirate games. And it's Ship Shape. And this is well, it was published in 2019. It was created by Rob Davio and it's published by Calapi Games. And it's a very neat, easy filler game. Like, it's a very light game for sure. And you play it in 3 rounds, and you have your boat, and that has like a 3x3 grid, and there'll be some rats on there, and then the rats are worth negative points. And on your turn, you have some cards that go from, I can't remember if it's 1 to 10.
Yeah, I think
it's 1 to 10. 1 to
9
9
or 10.
Right, so something like that. But everybody has the same cards. And basically, you'll select one, put it down, and then everybody reveals it at the same time. Now, if you are the same number as anybody else, you're eliminated, and it goes to the people that still have cards out. And then whoever has the highest card takes the top, well, I don't know what they're called. Like, I guess it's the crate. So it's the little cardboard pieces, like a foamy cardboard pieces that have out of this 3x3, and it has some of them filled in, and they'll have different symbols on there. And you're trying to place these, and you're going to be placing 3 on each ship, and you're trying to cover the rat so that you eliminate the negative points, and if you can, fill your entire ship so that each square is covered up, and that'll give you points. So you do that. Now, if you had the same number as somebody else, you get to go a second time, and you'll play a different card trying to get a crate. And then if you matched again, then you go by the number of your ship, and whoever has the highest takes the crate first, and then so on. And you do that 3 times to collect 3 crates, and then you score your shipment. So any gold that is showing, you get to collect that many points in gold minus any rats that are showing, so that takes away. And then after that, you'd have your cannons, and you're going to count all the cannons that you have, and you eliminate the players who has the least cannons. So if one player had 2 cannons, and then 4, and then 5, let's say, then the player who has 5 will take 5 negative 2, so they get to claim 3. And you get that many points. And then you have the contraband as well. And whoever has the most contraband, their contraband got seized, so they don't get to claim anything. So technically, you would prefer to be the second highest in contraband, and then you would collect that in points. And then if you covered all of your squares, then you also get an extra bonus 8 points. I've only done that one time. It's not as easy to do as it sounds. And then after that, you go into the second ship. And whoever has the most gold gets the highest numbered ship, but that ship has more rats. And whoever has the lowest amount of gold will take the lowest numbered ship, and there might be some goodies in the ship already. So it kind of has a neat catch-up mechanism a bit that way. And you'll do that on 3 different boats, and then whoever has the most points at the end wins. Now, this is luck driven. There's some strategy in it, because you can look through all the tiles and be like, well, I don't want the top one on top because there's not that much good stuff. I kind of like the third one because I can see that would cover the corner where I have a rat, so that'd be good for me. And you can kind of aim to be not the highest number, try to be a little bit lower, but you don't know who's going to be tied. You don't know what all the cards are going to be played. So it's really luck driven. It's still neat. It's still fun. As long as you don't some people, like I've played with some people, and they're like, there was no strategy. And the fact that they were trying to strategize didn't really matter, and it didn't help them win the game. It was just bothering them. So as long as you understand, this is mostly luck-driven game, but it is neat. The components are neat, and just putting this together is kind of fun. So that was my number 7, Ship Shape.
Nice. All right, my number 6 is called Piraten Kapern. It's by Haim Schaffer, made in 2012. And it's basically a dice game. There are some cards in there too, but I think it takes after the game called Farkle. Have you ever played that?
Yeah.
So you're just kind of rolling dice and trying to get the highest score you can without busting. So that's basically what this is, but they're all custom dice. So you might have gold on it, you might have a blue gem, you might have a parrot, a monkey, swords, or skulls on there. And what you're trying to do is obviously get as much of one kind as possible, not the skulls. But if you have, say, 3 of one, you'll get, say, 200 points. But if you had 4 of one, you might get 300, so on and so on. If you had all the same, I think you get like a ridiculous number, like 2,000 or something. But you can keep rolling as long as you want. The thing is, you have to at least roll 2 of the dice. And as soon as you have 3 skulls, you've busted. So if you keep rolling and you end up with only 1 skull and you have, say, 800 points, you can stop right there, mark that down, and then it's the next player's turn. Now, how the cards come into play is everybody gets 1 card just flipped up in front of them. And it can either help you with like a gem. It'll be like a starter gem. You'll either get a piece of gold. You might get like a parrot or monkey, or it allows you to be able to score them as one kind. So you could roll parrots and monkeys and then get, those would be counted as one. You might get this pirate that comes up that says you double your whole score, whatever you get. You might have something that starts you with a skull, which is usually negative. But if you roll the dice and you already start with 3 skulls, then you kind of go, I think it's called in the land of the, I can't remember now, the land of the skulls or something, and then you can just keep rolling dice, and whatever score you get there will take away from somebody else's score. So you kind of go into the Badlands and keep rolling and rolling, getting points, and then you get to choose who you're going to take it away from. It's just a really quick game that you can play, probably in 10 minutes if it's just a couple of you. But you just go back and forth, round and round, and try to get the best score you can. And I think you go up to, I think it's 6,000, and whoever gets there first wins. But if you've got to 6,000 and everybody hasn't had an equal turns, they still can go as well and try and beat your score. So they still have a chance to win. But it's just a neat little dice-driven game that, totally mindless. You can sit around and play and chat while you're playing. Super fun.
That sounds good. Yeah, I like little dice games.
Yeah.
It's something satisfying about rolling dice in a game.
I know.
Perfect. And that was your number 6.
Yes.
Great. So my number 6 is Smash Up. So Smash Up, and I think it gets his name because you take 2 complete different themes and you put them together. You can have ghost, you could have plants, you could have pirates. And that's why this one makes it into my list. So the way that this game plays is you have 2 different factions that you shuffle together and that you play. And you'll get these base on the middle of the table that you play, and those base have a number on it, and you're going to be playing characters onto it, and each character has a value as well. And once you've reached that there's enough character on one base that matches or is over the base number, well, then you score that base, and whoever has the most points on there gets first position points, and then second position would get so many points, and third position would get so many points as well. Some base will have like different things. Like I've seen some base where actually the most points is whoever comes in second. And it kind of changes it up. But each of the characters you have different abilities as well. So on your turn, you play an action card and a character card. And they can do different things. So, with the pirate one, you have your buccaneers. You have like all the different pirate theme ones. The pirate king or captain, what he does is he's worth 5, which is fairly high in value for a character, and you can put him on any base. But his ability is that before a base will score, you have the ability to move him onto that base, and you could go ahead and add 5 points onto that base, and then they're about to score, and then all of a sudden you add 5 and you end up winning it, right? So it's definitely has a lot of take that to this, because you're playing, and then you'll have some where it's like you'll play And I don't remember if it's the Buccaneer that does that, but you'll play him on there, and then any characters that are 2 or lower gets destroyed, and they're discarded, and they go back in the discard piles. And, so you kind of like set yourself up as like, okay, it's looking good, I'm about to score, and then they'll play something that totally messes up your game. So there's a lot of take that, but it's a neat card game where you're playing all these things, trying to create these combos, trying to create those things and score the bases so that you can win. But it's a neat game, and the Buccaneer is a neat faction to play on as the pirate one is. It was published in 2012. It's created by Paul Peterson, and it's printed by AEG Games.
Nice. That was your number 6.
My number 6.
My number 5 is called Tiny Epic Pirates by Scott Alms in 2021. So this is part of his Tiny Epic line. And it's a game that you're basically trying to bury 3 treasures. It's a race to see who can do that first. But you have, on your little player board, you have this little rondelle that you're going to move around to do actions with. And what you're going to do is you're going to combat merchant ships. You might combat other players' ships to like plunder their treasures. You're going to hire more crew to help you during combat. They'll also give you bonuses at the end of your turn. So if some of your crew has the little symbols on of the action you're doing, you'll get to do those little bonuses at the end of your turn. You can also hide in little coves to prevent attack. And you're just moving around this kind of grid board that you've laid out. And it's like completely changes up every game, because I think you have to place some cards in certain areas, but then the other ones are kind of random. So it's quite neat, especially with a little rondelle, because sometimes you may combat and lose, and then you will just exhaust some of your crew members. And then you will gain like these little cannons that will help you re-roll dice during combat or whatnot. It's one of my favorite Tiny Epic games. I think I've played about 4 or 5 of them. And that's probably one of my favorites, I would think. But have you tried this one yet?
Yes, I have. Tiny Epic Pirate. And I'm a big fan of the Tiny Epic games. I have pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
And this one is really neat. Like the little gold coins, because you have actual little metal gold coins that came with it. The dice, I got the upgraded dice where there are actually skulls inside of it. Like it's the shape of those dice are super cool. It's a really neat looking one. And then the little ships, because you have the merchant ship that goes back and forth from corner to corner, and then they'll have different goods on there. And then those cubes just sit in the ship, just kind of perfectly in there. They do. Yeah, it's super neat. My friend took her copy, and her son does a lot of models, and he painted each of those pirate ships to match the ships from Pirates of the Caribbean, perfectly. And it looks just amazing. Like he has one that's the Black Pearl, and like the sail is all crooked and on the side on it and everything. Like it's really neat. And that's why the Tiny Epic Pirate is actually also my number 5 on my list.
Oh, no way. Well, then carry on.
Crossover of this list, and not even the same game, but at the same position as well.
Wow.
That's funny. All right, so I guess we're at your number 4 then.
Number 4. My number 4 is Port Royale by Alexander Pfister. It's a 2014 game, another card game. And he likes to use his cards in multiple ways a lot of times in a lot of his games. And this one is no different. But this is a small game compared to most of his bigger, heavier games. So it's another push your luck game. And what you're doing is you're just flipping cards again and trying not to bust. Trying to get the biggest display possible, because then you'll have more of a choice of what to take. And you could possibly you'll be able to take more cards, because all the cards that are in the deck are either people like that you would hire, ships that you that's the way you would bust. If you have two of the same kind of ship, then you would bust. But you do want to have as many ships out there as possible, because the more ships, the more cards you can take. Because if you have up to 3 ships showing, then you can take 1 card. If you have 4 or 5, I think it is, then you get 2 cards. No, 4 you get 2 cards, and 5 I think you get 3 cards. But the other thing, you could draw an expedition card, which will just be placed on the top. And those are basically just like contracts that need to be filled, that anybody can fill. There's also a tax card that could come up that would make you lose a bunch of your coins if you have a whole bunch. It'll also benefit somebody, because someone who has the most swords, or it could be anything like that, you'll get an extra coin. But each person you're trying to hire is also going to give you an ability. Some may let you take more cards out there when it's your turn to take, or you might be able to take extra coins for different ships that you take. You might be able to get discounts on certain things that you buy. And you're just trying to get to 10 points. So the first person to 10 points wins. So it's just basically a race. But it's quite neat, because you're flipping cards, and then you've got 3 ships, and you're like, oh, do I just want one more ship? Because then I want both of those things that are out there. And you might, push your luck and you get it, and then you get to take 2 things. The boats that you would take, like the ships, those are just basically coins. So they'll give you coins, which you would need to buy or hire some of the crew members. And then once they're all down in your tableau, you can trade some of them off for one of the objectives, which was the expeditions. And they'll give you higher points and some more coins back. It's a really fun 2-player game. Me and John have played this lots. He really likes it. It's just quick, easy, another fun little card game. Have you played this one?
I don't think so, no.
Really?
Yeah, I know. My
this
list
is really
keeps
good.
growing.
Yeah.
Perfect. So that was your number 4.
Yes.
Great. So my number 4 is the Goonies Escape with One-Eyed Willy's Rich Stuff. And this is one of those escape games where you're going through the game, different things will come up, and you're trying to figure out the puzzle to get your way out. And I've partially played this one because I got playing it, and it's super neat because it is following the movie The Goonies completely. And you're finding this stuff in your attic that was left on this old pirate story, and then it's like half the people don't believe that it was actually real, but it has a map for hidden treasure, and these kids decide to go and hunt this treasure down. But there's I guess murderers or smugglers that they come across on the way, and then they're being chased by that. So you're going through this scenario and you're trying to stay ahead of them, because every round, and it's neat because in this one, like, you actually build a map as you go, so you kind of go following the location, and then you have these smugglers that are chasing you, and then they move closer and closer if you don't make it through the puzzle fast enough, right? And I got playing this, and right away I noticed that I had 2 of the map cards that were the same letter, so I was like, oh no, we're missing some pieces. And we got playing anyways, kind of. I was like, well, let's start it, see how it goes. And then it's like, okay, great, now go and get card 19. And card 19 wasn't part of my game. So I've reached out to the publishers. Oh, and I should mention, it was published in 2021. It's created by Jay Cormier and Sang-Foon Lim, and it's published by The Op. So I've reached out to them. They're sending me copies, but this was right after Christmas, so it took a while for them to kind of get through all their, because everybody got new games at Christmas, right? So to get through all the emails. So I have those missing pieces coming, and then we'll be able to keep playing it and go through it, and then, do all these puzzles and things. And I love these escape or unlock games. And this is a game that you play one time, because then afterwards, the puzzle, and you can pass it on to another player. Some games, get destroyed as you go. This one, I'm not sure what's going to happen, how it's going to go, but so far the way that it all comes together is really neat because everybody has a different book for the different characters. Because every, like you have Nikki, you have the big brother, you have the Asian kid that has all the gadgets, and then each of them was like, okay, well, let's use this gadget, see if he has it, and then you kind of pull the different characters. So it's very story driven compared to some of the other unlock games where you're just going through the story. Like this one, you have the characters that you control that will have like some of the part of the stories that they'll read, and so it's neat that way. And then depending on how many players you have, what character they'll kind of control. So it's a better version, I guess, for including everybody, because some of the things with the exit and the unlock games, I would say is a good 2-player game. It's okay at 3. Any more than that, you have players that are sitting there not doing anything. So with this one where everybody's assigned a different character, it works well to make sure that everybody's included. So I'm excited to get my missing component so that I can finish this adventure and see how it goes. But that was my number 4, The Goonies, Escape with One-Eyed Willy's Rich Stuff.
Awesome. All right, my number 3 is another crossover. It's Ship Shape.
Ah, nice.
Yes. So you've basically described the game. I just like to add that we usually play this like at the end of the night after we've played some heavy games, just something nice and light. And like you said, basically luck driven. I mean, as much as you think, oh, I'm looking down and I want that second crate, you don't have a clue if you're going to get it because you play a number you think will be second, but it could very well be first or fourth or whatnot. But it's still fun to play. You're just hoping to get the best possible crates that you can. And sometimes the ones you wanted turned out to not be great for what you need because you can't see everything when you kind of look down the middle of those foam things. But it's still really super fun. I love it. Ship Shape. That's my number 3.
Yeah, it's a neat one for sure. Filler, but it just has that, I don't know, it's satisfying to play.
Yeah, it is.
And that was your number 3. So my number 3 is Sea of Clouds. It was published in 2016. It was created by Theo Rivière, and it's published by Yellow Games. And this one is neat. And you're a pirate of a flying ship. Apparently this is happening in the sky. And it's very much a push your luck game because you have 3 sets of cards. Then you'll go through on your turn. You'll pick up the first pile and look into it. Or at the first, it might be just a 1 card. And you look at it secretly, and you decide whether you want to take this card or whether you want to put it back and look at the second pile. Now, if you look at the second pile, you do not have the option to go back to the first pile. You're moving on. So if you pass, you'll put the card back down, a new card get added to it, or if it already has 3 cards in that pile, then a gold gets added to it, and you go to the next pile, and then you pick that one up, and you see what's in there. And then, you can pick on whether you'll take these cards, or if you're going to pass, then more cards get added to that one, and you go on to the next one, and then here maybe you reveal the crappiest card ever, and you should have gone with the second pile or whatever, right? Or you could pass on all 3 piles, and then you just randomly pick up the top card that's on the deck. But each pile gets a little bit better and better because more cards get added to it, and then gold gets added to it, so if they're left behind. So eventually it's going to become attractive anyways, right? And in these cards, you could have crew members because you're going to be going through this path, and every couple of time, like I think it's like every 3rd or every 4th round, you battle the other pirates. And you battle the ships that are on the side of you, and you can collect crew members, and they all have attack value. And if you have a higher attack value of the other ones, then you get to take their goods or something like that, like where you gain something. But you battle to the person to your right, and you battle the person to your left. And they get to do the same thing as well, right? So it's good to collect these crew members, but when you do the battle, they go away, and then you have to kind of start again. So but they don't actually add to your value and your treasures. And then there'll be some props that you can collect, and there'll be like different type of things that you collect. And the more you have, the more value they're going to be worth. And then there's like rum, and there's different value realm where you have like the really good stuff or the crappier stuff. And it's a set collecting game where you're collecting all these things and it's going to be worth points. And then the gold you collect is going to be worth things as well. And you have like this little 3D, like a cardboard that has two cardboard that fits in together that creates a parrot. And that's kind of the one that indicates, can't remember if it's first player, who's the active player is. And it's just a very thematic and a very neat game. And that push your luck element to it. It's kind of neat. It's kind of like, well, this wouldn't be bad. And I could add that, and then I would kind of, I could use some more rum, so that'd be good. I would score the rum, but what if the next card's better, right? So then you go and so that whole aspect is really neat. It's funny. I bought this one blind as a gift for my brother at first, and he hadn't played it for a while, and then me and my sister went over and we ended up playing it, and we're like, oh, this was good. So then I ended up buying a copy for myself, and my sister ended up buying a copy for herself. Oh, nice. And it's just a very interesting game. So that was number 3, Sea of Clouds.
Sounds cool. I've never heard of that one. My number 2 is Libertalia by Paolo More, and it was made in 2012. There is a new one coming out by Stonemaier Games. He's reproduced it and changed it up a little bit. But I've only played this one, and I've only played it actually on Boardgame Arena. I think I would almost prefer buying the older version, but I don't know, I would have to see. It's quite neat though. So it's basically a card game again, but you do have a board. And there is other parts to it because you have the little booty tiles. So it's played over 3 rounds, and you will choose, somebody will just randomly choose 9 cards out of their deck. You all have a deck of, I think, like 30 cards. And so someone will choose 9, and then he'll show those 9, and everybody will pick those out of their decks. And those are the ones you have to choose from for the first year, I believe. So you'll each pick a card and then like flip it down and face down, and then when everyone's done, you'll flip them over. Then you'll place them on the board in numerical order, and then you'll kind of resolve them. So you'll have like a daytime phase. So you'll resolve all the daytime abilities from left to right, and you may very well, the first card may actually kick off one of the other cards. So they might not even get to play that whole little round. But each card has something different. It could steal from other players. It could take an extra booty from the board, because there's only little booty tiles each round, as many as there are players. So there may be a chance that you're not going to actually get to plunder that round. But in the booty tiles, there's also some bad things too. So it may be good sometimes if you haven't had to take one, because sometimes you're forced to take a tile that, like, if there's cursed treasure that gives you like negative points and stuff like that. But some of them are good things. They'll give you money, or they'll give you just like little abilities. But you play this over 3 years, I think they call it. 3 campaigns maybe, and you'll go through 6 days in each campaign and do that. So you'll choose your card like each round, and then at the end of that first campaign you'll have 3 cards left over, and you'll flip all your booty tiles. You'll score them depending what are negative and what are positive, and then you'll put your score on the board, and then you take everything back. So all your money goes away, and all your booty tiles will go back in the bag, and your cards will go out of the game, the ones that you've played. Then you'll draw 9 new cards, and everyone will have the same 9, but they'll also have 3 left over from the last round. So you will have a little bit of different cards than other players for the second and third campaign. But you just choose what you're going to play, and it's so confrontational because you could easily, kick someone off. I don't think you actually kill them. You just put them in their discard pile. And there is ways to get those cards back, because if you've played a card and it hasn't been kicked out or killed, then you just put it in front of you, and that's part of your crew that gets added up towards the end of the campaign as well. But it's really fun to play, especially with the higher the players, the better, because then there's more back and forth. You're not just picking on one person or two people all the time. You can kind of go back and forth and, choose different people to pick on sometimes. But it's really fun. I like it. Libertalia, that's my number 2.
And I've heard a lot of good stuff about that one. I think that's like when you talk pirate theme game, that's the one that comes up, right? Mm-hmm. So my number 2 is Dice Throne, Season 2, particularly for the pirate character. So Dice Throne Season 1 and Season 2 comes with 8 characters each. And each character play differently, and they have cards that you can do. And it's a battle game where you have one versus everybody else, or 1 versus 1 if you're playing only 2 players, which is probably the best way to play it. And it's really neat because you have some cards. So you'll start with 4 cards, and some of these cards will upgrade your character, but not with the pirate. She doesn't have any upgrade cards. She only has like different action ones that will allow her to have more combat points, which is what you utilize to activate cards. Or do different things, or she'll have like the modifier cards that'll help you modify the dice that you roll. But it's neat. Each character have their own set of custom dice, and you roll your 5 dice, and you're trying to create combinations with them that will activate one of your attacks, basically. And what's neat with the pirate one is a lot of those ones will either allow her to gain doubloons or to get rid of doubloons. And she start with so many, and at the start of each of her rounds, she'll get rid of one. So if you do an action that gets you more doubloons, then you'll have doubloons kind of last a little bit longer. But at one point, you're going to get rid of your last doubloon, and now once you have no doubloons left, you become cursed. And you become the cursed pirate, and then you take your character board and you flip it over, and now you're like a skeleton pirate because you're cursed, and all of your abilities are a little bit stronger now. So you don't upgrade your abilities as you play like most players, but at one point when you become cursed pirates, all your abilities are improved. And now you're playing, but because you're cursed, each round, at the start of your round, you do take some damage. So you don't want to flip over too soon, because then you'll be taking damage all along a little bit too fast. So you want to do that a little bit later in the game so that you become more powerful, but you don't have that much further to go, because you're slowly deteriorating. It is such a neat game. I'm a big fan of Dice Throne. We've been playing it in our household more and more. Nick has declared it his most favorite game ever. Marvel Dice Throne is coming, so I'm excited for that, and I got to play the pre-production copy. So, but the pirate character is a really neat, unique character to play in this game, and then the whole doubloon, it is so thematic as well, so that's neat. So that was my number 2.
Sweet. All right, number 1s. My number 1 is Maracaibo by Alexander Pfister, made in 2019. So what you're doing in this game is you're moving around like a rondel around the Caribbean, and you're stopping at different cities to increase influence, like with 3 different nations, by fighting for certain nations. In order to do that, you'll perform various actions in cities or deliver goods. And just like his other games, the cards are multi-use. Again, you can either use them as to deliver goods. They have little good symbols on the middle of them. Or you could use them to hire assistants that will actually go, you'll place a little meeple in one of the cities, and every time you go around it, you can use that ability. If you stop there, you can use his ability that's on the card. They're also used as cards you can just build in your tableau, and they can give you more income or more points during income. They can give you little symbols that will help you throughout the game. Depending, once you get the symbol, you'll get more income again, or more use of, say, little combat symbols that you could use. It's just a nice, meaty game that, with the card play, adds so much, because you're trying to manage these cards in your hand because you want to play them all, but they're so expensive, some of these cards, that there's no way you can use them that way. You can use them as payment sometimes for things. A lot of times when you're hiring your assistants, you might not have enough of your people hired, so you're going to have to do that before you're going to hire assistants. There's another little explore track on the bottom where you're going to send out one of your workers, and he's going to go explore down there, and he can do various things as well down there. There's just different pathways to different things that you can meet up with, and depending on your movement, like if you've only moved one, you're only going to be able to do one action, but if you move, say, 4 or 5, you could do 2 main actions, and if you move the full 7, you can do 3. So it kind of encourages you to move quite a bit, but at the same time, you don't want to move too fast around the whole Caribbean, because once you end your round, then that's it. There's only 4 rounds. So if you move around quick, you're going to get less things to do. So sometimes you want to move really slow, but then when you see somebody like just pushing it and moving really fast, well, then you have to start moving fast too, because there's always one person who wants to just move as fast as possible around that board. Have you played Maracaibo?
I haven't. I've heard great things. It's one I want to try really eventually. Good. But I mean, if it's your number one.
Yeah, you'll try it.
Yeah.
I just got the expansion too, so it adds like cooperative play into it, and just some other campaigns that you can try.
Very nice.
Yes, I love it. What's your number one?
So my number one game is also one of my most favorite game of all time, and that's Ashes: Rise of the Pheonixborn. So in Ashes: Rise of the Pheonixborn, you play as one of the Pheonixborn, and there's different characters to play with. The base game comes with 6, and you can add like extra characters as well. And Ashes: Rise of the Pheonixborn at one point was becoming out of print, so the characters were really cheap to buy. It was like $2 or $5 for an extra character pack. But they just did the Reborn, so they've just revamped it and kind of recreated it. And it plays pretty much the same way. They've changed a few rules that makes it slightly better. But you can buy like the Reborn upgrade that will take the original game and kind of bring it up to the new rules and stuff.
Oh, nice.
And I've gotten that one. And I've put it in this list because one of the character is Cole Roquewin. And he's based on the allies and the stuff that he has, he's a pirate. So you see him, like his characters, he's this guy with this big white beard, and he's got like, you know, the ships behind him, and he's got all of his swords and his allies. He has like this little young shipmate that has like an anchor, and he attacks with an anchor and that sort of stuff. So and I went through this when I was like, oh, I hope there's a pirate character in it, because this is such an amazing game. I love, love, love this game. Unfortunately, in my household, I'm the only one who does. And nobody else will play it. But this one was originally published in 2015. It's created by Isaac Vega, and it was published by Played Hat Games. And the way that it works is you have your character, the Pheonixborn, and he's your main character. And then you have your cards. And you also have dice. So each character will utilize 2 different sets of dice. And at the start of the game, you take those dice and you roll them. Each dice have 3 symbols on it. So you have the basic symbol that every set of dice have, and that's just kind of the basic ability of the dice. Then you have a middle symbol that has a little bit more powerful abilities, and it can also be utilized as the basic symbol as well. And then there's the top symbol, and the top symbol, the dice could be used for its own individual power if you wanted to, or it's the most powerful ability that it has. And it also can be used as a second level or as the basic symbol as well if you wanted to. And you roll all these dice and you put it on the one side of your one card, and as you spend to do your actions, you put the dice on the other side to show that you've used them. And then at the end of your first round, so because you play until you cannot do any more actions, and then you would go into the next round. Now, if you have any dice left over, you can keep them or you can re-roll. So if you had a few high rolls, you would leave those there, kind of re-roll everything else to try to get more high rolls and stuff. And that's how the dice work. But then you have your cards, and then on your turn, you can do a main action and a side action. And the main action has a little symbol, and it kind of shows on your cards what that might be. So you can play your cards, and then it'll be like, okay, well, so for my main action, I'm playing this ally, and I'm putting him in my battlefield. And depending on your character, you can have so many people on the battlefield, and you can have so many spells in your spell book as well. So you put him in your battlefield, and you have to spend whatever dice it says you need to spend to do that action, and now he's in your battlefield. And when you have your allies in your battlefield, you can attack the other player. So you can either attack their allies or attack the creature that they've because you can use your spell to bring out creatures that you would kind of bring forth. Now with Cole, his creature is an iron rhino. And he only has the one creature. Some of them have multiple different things it can bring out. And then you can bring out your creature, and then you can, like with him, you can do different things that each round his creature becomes more and more powerful. So ideally, you want to try to take him down as early as you can. But you can battle the other players. And now you can attack either directly their Pheonixborn, or you can attack their allies or their creatures, but your other allies and they can step in and take the attack or take the blow instead because they've protected you and so on, right? And it's just so neat how you bring the spells, and now you can activate the spells that'll bring out a creature or that'll do different actions, or that you can use your allies, and you can use the allies to attack the Pheonixborn on the other side, and you use all the dice at the same time to activate all these things. A lot of people compare this one a bit to Magic the Gatherings.
Really?
I wasn't a Magic player, so I don't know. What I like about this is you get your character, you get your cards. There's not, well, I spent more money on my character, so mine's worth more and is more powerful than that you can see in the Magic the Gatherings a bit sometimes. So there's none of that. The game is a set game. But it's so satisfying that you have the dice to spend to do the actions, and it'll be like, okay, now this turn I'm doing this. Now if you block an attack with your ally could be destroyed, or maybe he's not destroyed, but he's exhausted, or so then you can't say, oh, well, I noticed all of your allies are exhausted now because you were attacking me. Now I'm going to attack your Pheonixborn, and nobody can step in, so you're going to take the hit with your... It's such a neat battle game, and for some reason I seem to really enjoy the 1-versus-1 battle games. They tend to be my most favorite games, like Star Realms, Memoir 44, and then this one, Ashes, Rise of the Pheonixborn. It's up there for me. And then the artwork in this game is just stunning. I bought this game on looks alone because it was beautiful, and I played it and it was amazing. But by far, this is the most beautiful game I own. It is so neat looking.
I've never played this one.
That's my number one.
Yeah,
a lot
we'll
of people
have to try
haven't,
that.
honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. So that was Ashes, Rise of the Pheonixborn. Number one. So that's it for our top 9 of pirate themed game. Now next week we're going to be doing our top 9 push your luck games. And I'm still working on my list. There's a lot really out there that's available, so I'm excited for this one for sure. Now before we finish all this up here, Carla, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Boardgame Specialist, all one word. Also have a Facebook page with a friend called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. You can reach us there. And that's about it for social media for me. What about you?
So I am also on Instagram, and that's under boardgame_mama. I have my YouTube channel that's also Boardgame Mama. And on Facebook, I have my Facebook group that's called Disbury and Area is Playing All the Games. So that's it for us this week. I hope you enjoy this episode. We had a lot of fun putting these pirate theme game together, and we're looking forward to doing the Push Your Luck one. So we will be back next week.
Goodbye for now.
Bye.